Hey guys, what is up? Lefty back here again, and thanks for checking out the video. So today we're going to begin going over a couple of left-handed magazine options for AR-15. So let's get right into it. Okay, so I have three of them that I want to show you guys. One of them is the Arms Unlimited left-handed release, and if we look at this one here, this is my 14.5 BCM in a spikes lower. And as you can see here, this is the Strike Industries left-handed magazine release, and as opposed to the Arms Unlimited is because that fucking thing sucks dick. So the Arms Unlimited is about 20-30 bucks, somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly the price. I actually did a quick little first impressions kind of video of it, and that thing sucks. It doesn't work well in any of my lowers. It either doesn't lock the magazine in or it doesn't actually function well. So I would recommend not buying that piece of shit and just trying out the Strike Industries left-handed magazine release if you are curious about putting one in your rifle. So this one, I believe, comes in roughly the same price, around 30-40 bucks, something like that. And as you can see, that's what it looks like. It is machined a lot better and actually kind of has this almost spring kind of detent to it, which is actually kind of nice. I haven't had any kind of functional issues with this thing. This thing locks into every lower that I have it in and stuff like that, and it's a really cheap option, and it works pretty damn well. Now, the only downside is it almost works a little bit too well. Now, obviously on the left-handed side of the rifle, we don't have any type of fencing, we don't have any type of guard for this magazine release, and as you can see, this is how much pressure is actually needed to actually release it here. See if I can kind of get it into frame. It's very light. Now, again, if you're left-handed, the rifle is going to be slung like this, luckily. If you're right-handed and wearing kit, for example, I would not recommend this goddamn thing at all, because that is just, it's too scary in my opinion. Luckily for left-handers, the magazine release on the right-hand side of the rifle is a little bit more gated, a little bit more fenced in, so it's pretty hard to kind of knock that weapon in there, or knock that magazine out of the weapon. The left side is not so, and I would not recommend that if you are just wanting to make your weapon fully ambi. Not worth it. Not worth it at all, because if that fucking magazine drops out, your gun is as good as shit. So just saying that first and foremost. And then as well too, I think it's really for people that are left-handed, a little bit on the fence of like, I don't really need something like that, blah blah blah, because in the past left-handed magazine releases or just ambi options are either lower specific, which is just kind of cost prohibitive, because those lowers are usually built lower, something like $300-400 bucks. So it's kind of prohibitive in that regard. And then there are also drop-in options, which are, in my opinion, overpriced. Most of them are around 100 bucks, maybe a little bit lower, 70, 80, 90, somewhere around there. And they work okay. Like the Norgan, they work okay. And actually the Arms Unlimited is kind of a rip-off of that style of magazine release for the drop-in kind of part. But other than that, I really would recommend left-handers to try out this option. That's what I think is kind of nice about this. It's very cheap, and you can kind of have it on range rifles. I don't really know if I would really trust it. And kind of a home defense rifle. This is kind of a home defense rifle, and I trust it enough that I would have it in here. Otherwise I wouldn't have it, because it is an option. But yeah, I would really play around with it before you trust it well enough. I don't think it's going to have too much of an issue. I just wouldn't really have this if you're right-handed only. But going from that, having to strip the rifle down kind of AK style and then get a new magazine in, compared to just being able to drop it out, new mag in, and then get back on the rifle is just, not only for the Instagram videos, but just also having that assurance that if speed is necessary during a fight, you are able to do that. It's just kind of a nice thing to have in the back of your mind. For left-handed, that's kind of always the negative of reloading a rifle, is that we may have the bolt release on the left hand, which is still kind of weird to try to use your left hand to hit it, but always having to break that hand off and then come up here when I can just simultaneously grab new mag at the same time, drop old mag, and then get right back on the rifle. It's just, that speed is just awesome and stuff like that. So I would recommend this option if you want to kind of see what it's like, but it also is an okay option if you actually want to put it on a fighting rifle. Just make sure you test it good enough, because it is quite a bit of an issue. So let's go into the next one here. And the next one comes from Forward Controls or something like that. I'll put a link in the description if I remember to. So this is kind of like my main kind of Gucci home defense rifle, which is a limited 5 BCM. You've seen on the channel quite a bit. This option, I think, is right around that $70 mark by Forward Controls. Now, they have a couple of different designs and stuff like that. There's the serrated one, and then they also have a slight extended one, which I also do have. I don't have it with me, but it's kind of negligent, the difference between the extended and just the normal one. You literally have maybe a millimeter or two extended out from there. And I don't have the biggest hands, and as you can see, this is where my finger lines up. So I think it's kind of unnecessary, because even if I have the tiniest of hands, I mean, I would still be able to grab that. Now, again, this also might depend on what kind of grip you have for your rifle. I have a BCM here, so this is a little bit more neutral, more straight up and down, so I can get more of my hand on the rifle. So it might depend there, but from my experience, I think the extended version, if you do have a smaller finger or a smaller hand, I don't think it's really necessary. I think most people are probably fine with this. Now, they have the serrated and they also have the dimpled one. I haven't tried the dimpled, but I just like the rib for her pleasure, so it's going to be personal preference for that. But I think this is by far the best style of magazine, Ambi magazine release that the market has at the moment. It is kind of a, I don't really know what you want to call it. It's just kind of a roll pin there, and it kind of bobbles a little bit, but it basically presses off of the frame of the rifle in order to actually press that piece out that locks into the magazine. If you can kind of see that, how that design works and shit. So what's nice about that is that it's actually pretty stout. If I smack it, I'm gonna move my toes here because that shit hurt. I mean, you gotta smack it pretty good before that magazine is going to drop free, which is a good thing. I want it to be a very hardcore conscious effort to be able to do it by accident. Try to minimize that as most possible, but I can press it out, can drop that magazine, get a new one in, and it's very, very, very quick. So I really, really, really do like these magazine releases. All right, yeah, magazine releases, I was right. For once in my life. Now, the negative thing here, and I will say this about more or less on certain lower manufacturers, lower receivers, this will not work with all lowers. This is why I do not like Spikes Tactical anymore. The Spikes Tactical lower, which is that 14.5 I just showed. This thing requires kind of a shelf inside of the slot where this aftermarket piece sits. If the shelf is not high enough, the magazine release cannot operate correctly, because it needs to have that shelf in there to stop it enough so that magazine can actually lock into the piece, but it also has to have enough height to it so it can actually pivot off of it in order to swing that piece away from the magazine, allowing it to drop free, if that makes sense. The shelf that's in the Spikes Tactical, at least both lowers that I have, they do not function. And that is really the only reason why this fucker is in here, because otherwise I would have all of those things, but I do have two Spikes lowers, and they both have that issue, so I stick with this, at least for now, until I get new lowers. If they're still available at any point, I don't know. Maybe Biden gets in and that shit gets all fucked up, who knows? But one quick other comparison besides that too, because again, to reiterate real quick, I fucking hate Spikes lowers. Just saying that they're overpriced and they don't seem to function really well, so I'll make a different video about that a little bit later and stuff like that. So one thing that I really want to emphasize as well is the fact that the bolt catch is obviously going to be right above that. Now, if it were me at Strike Industries, I would actually take a lot of this metal off, and I would actually put it more toward the back, if that makes any sense. So you can see where the ping pong paddle comes. I would take almost all of this material off and leave that much, because I can still activate it right there by pressing on that piece. And I would honestly keep it like that, because the number one issue with having Ambi magazine releases is the ability to lock the bolt home if need be without accidentally hitting your magazine release. Because the way, again, this piece works is why it works in this rifle is because it doesn't actually press off of the frame. Again, it has that little roll pin with a detent that allows it to just pivot right there without actually pressing off of the frame, which is good, I guess, if you want to keep your lower receiver pretty. I don't really give a shit. I just want the damn thing to work when I need it to work. So, but the problem is, as you can see how close it is to that part. Now, you can get aftermarket bolt catches, which I would probably recommend if you actually really, really do like this aftermarket piece. I would switch it out in order to make it work correctly. The ones that have them like extended over here and stuff. Because right now with a stock bolt catch, it's kind of a pain in the ass. It's possible for sure to lock the bolt open without actually hitting it like I did there, but you have to make sure it's very conscious when you go into to do it. And I've been pretty good at doing it, but it takes a lot of practice, I would say. You kind of have to run your finger up on the pivot point of the bolt catch and then slowly press down so you get kind of more of a meaty press rather than pressing your fingertip on this, because if you press your fingertip on that lower part of the bolt catch, probably going to activate that, so just something to keep in mind. This one, again, forward controls, awesome design. As you can see, their paddle is actually far away from this, and also they have a little bit of a cutout there, right there, where the bottom of that piece actually hits. So far and away, this is a much better design, and it works significantly better. You're not going to accidentally drop your magazine out of the weapon when you don't need to and have a complete shit fucking sandwich if the time comes for it. So that's just real quick. This video is way too long, more than I wanted it to. So that's pretty much it. Highly recommend forward controls. Again, these are more like 60, 70 bucks, something like that. I don't know if the price has gone up with the shit that's going on right now. Strike Industries is a good option for people who want to test it, maybe figure out if they like it or not. But buyer beware of those kinds of designs as well. With these, it depends on the lower, unfortunately. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. If this doesn't work, that may be a good second option. But also, Arms Unlimited, stay away from that piece of shit. It doesn't work. It's machined poorly. Doesn't fit in any rifles that I have, and doesn't work. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Links in the description box below for all that stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Please subscribe. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Be good.